All right, loneliness in our community is on the rise, and it's partly due to the rise of technology, partly due to the changes in which we interact as neighbours in a society. And yet, it's linked to mental health problems, poor physical health, cognitive decline, declining social skills, and unhealthy coping behaviours. But I wanted to share with you some of the ways that people in our community are making a difference. In the United Kingdom, the government has appointed a loneliness minister. Now, that reflects good intentions, but ultimately, I'd say it's a wrong-headed approach because far away, impersonal government bodies are not the way to tackle what is an issue requiring person-to-person social connection. This is one of the many examples where civil society just does it better. James Schleusener is a bloke of many talents. He's qualified as a hairdresser, even though he hasn't got a lot of hair, runs cafes as a pastor and a trained counsellor. And he and a team of people like him are investing their lives and their skills into making our society better by reducing loneliness. James, welcome to the program.
Hey, Amanda, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. Tell us about the problem you're trying to solve.
Well, obviously, loneliness. The first thing I want to say is I'm so happy governments are actually at least realising that loneliness is an issue, because a couple of years ago when we were doing stuff, they wouldn't admit that loneliness was an issue.
That's progress.
Yeah, which is progress, which is awesome. But obviously, we want to eliminate loneliness because it's a huge issue. Well, in Australia for us, it's global, but I'm an Australian, so that's what we want to fix. It's helping people have real connections again. I was watching Byron Bay's, it's like a documentary about these influencers, and the whole show really followed them looking for real connections. And multiple times throughout the whole show, they just kept saying the same things, which was, I have all these followers, but I don't have any real friends. And I think that really the pressure of society right now is to gain followers, but we're losing our friendships. And so we want to help with that problem. We want to help people make real friends again.
So how do you do it?
Yeah, well, for us, we have a bunch of not-for-profit cafes. For me, I think cafes are like an Aussie culture. Yeah. Like, I reckon most Australians, regardless of your social status, will walk into some sort of cafe, experience during the week. And so we thought, instead of waiting for people to come to us, why don't we go to them? Why don't we create a place where they want to come to, but we train our staff to make people feel known, loved and valued, to care for people, to not just be their baristas, but to be their friends and to have real, authentic conversations. And it's amazing because, every Australian loves going to a coffee shop. And some baristas, to be honest, they're just rude, aren't they? So we're want to do the opposite. We just want to make people feel so connected. And, I love our manager up at Barton. She's now friends with customers that have come in and had them over for dinner. And that's what we want to do. We just want to help build real, genuine connections in communities again, because it is dying off.
So how do you measure the improvements that you're making in the lives of people against some of those, social and physical and mental health criterion that you're trying to shift? Yeah,
well, look, we've got a saying in our organisation that we're trying to prevent loneliness from happening, and it's a lot harder to measure preventative things, on a large scale. But the way I love to measure is through individual stories. Individual stories for me are always the best number. I love the story of a lady by the name of Sarah. She was new to Barton, and Barton it's a nice suburb to live in. It's not like you would expect someone to be lonely in Barton. But she's new to the area, got kids in the school, and she came into our cafe. Now she comes in every day. She didn't know anyone. I was sitting down with her a couple of months ago, and she's just like, James, thank you so much for opening this cafe. Because when I moved here, I didn't know anyone. And we work on creating a culture where everyone sort of talks to one another, just like a town city almost. And, she's like, thank you for opening this cafe. And, through that, she gets to know people. She now runs the fundraisers for the local school. Yeah. So I love those stories. I love the story of a guy, we'll call him Bob today. He comes into our cafe in East Brisbane, and we could tell he was going through a hard time, right? So anyway, sit down and what should be a 10, 15-minute conversation, chatting to this guy for like 45 minutes. But that's what we do, right? Anyway, I didn't think much of it. 2 weeks later, he comes in and he tells me how he was really struggling with stuff and he was about to end his life that day he came in. But after coming in and having a real connection, he decided he wasn't going to do that. For me, those stories are how I measure what we do and the impact we make. And I could go on for days, but we've only got 7 minutes.
Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And look, because I can observe from the work on the ground that this is making a meaningful difference in the lives of women who are otherwise struggling with postnatal depression, with older people who don't get visits from their family, and people who are struggling with a range of life's challenges. And these undercover counsellors come and give them a hand to work it through. It's pretty cool stuff.